welcome to Tutors. I am Neelambari and I am here with the video on body fluids and circulation. Today we will be doing the first part of this chapter, that is body fluids. So, did you know that 50 to 70% of our body is made up of water? So, that means that water makes up more than anything else in our body. Where is this water present? This water is present both intracellularly and extracellularly. So when we take the fluid compartment of our body, we see that most of the water in our body is present inside the cells. That is almost 40% of water is present inside our cells. Okay, now then the remaining water, that is up to 20%, is present extracellularly. So this extracellular water, where is this water present? So extracellular water, either it can be interstitial fluid. Interstitial fluid is the fluid that bathes the blood cells, right? So it will be flowing in between the blood cells, and it is through this fluid that the exchange of substances takes place between the blood vessels, the blood in the blood vessels and the cells. The next place where the fluid can be is in the vessels, that is in blood vessels, that is blood, the plasma of the blood, or it can be through the lymphatic system, that is the lymph. Or it can be present in certain membrane epithelium enclosed spaces, that is known as transcellular fluid. Example, the cerebrospinal fluid, which protects the brain and the spinal cord, the pericardial fluid, the peritoneal fluid, the synovial fluid, which helps in the flexible movement of the joints. So that is how the fluid is distributed in our body. Now, what is the function of this fluid? We say that, when 70% of our body is made up of fluid, it should have that much significant function, right? So, when we come to the function of the fluid, we realize that the whole of our body is made up of cells, and these cells need to take oxygen and nutrients for its survival, and it has to give out the waste materials. But can these cells go and get these and go and discard them? No, right? So something should bring these nutrients to them and take the waste away from them. Now this function is mainly done by the fluids in the body. So let's see what all are these substances. It can be substances like glucose and lipid, which is required for the energy requirement of the body, or it can be taking away of waste materials. These are the nitrogenous substances like urea, uric acid, ammonia, etc. Or it can be the gases, that is the blood brings the oxygen from the lungs to the required organ, and then it takes away the carbon dioxide for giving out. And then it can be the secretions. The cells need to communicate with each other, right? So the hormones, it can be through hormones, enzymes, etc. And next, the inorganic substances like sodium, potassium, magnesium, etc., calcium. Okay, so let's see. Now we are talking about this blood. So what is this blood? Is it some red liquid, just a red liquid, or does it have some components? For this, we will do an experiment. We will take one test tube and we will fill it with blood. Okay. Next, we will centrifuge this. You must be knowing what is centrifugation, right? We will rotate it at a very high speed. So after centrifugation, we find that the components of the blood will settle down according to its density gradient. So we see that on the top, there will be the plasma, and next there will come the Buffy coat. The Buffy coat means it consists of platelets and WBCs, and below there will be the RBCs. So we see that the blood consists of plasma and formed elements. Now from this, we come to know that it has plasma and formed elements. Now what are the formed elements? RBCs, WBCs and platelets. Okay, now we want to know that we want to know now again what are all these components of blood like. Okay, so since we don't have any other job, we'll take each of them and observe them separately. Right, so we came to know that these are the elements of the blood. So first we take some plasma. Okay, now when we take the plasma, we find, when we look at it, we know that it's a straw colored fluid. You know what is a straw? Straws. See, this is a straw. It's what is left after drying wheat, rice, etc. It's called a straw. So it is, we come to know that it is a straw colored fluid. Again, when we touch it, it is viscous. Viscous means it's kind of slippery and thick. So it's viscous fluid. And we see that in the test tube, almost 55% of it is plasma. And the rest 45% is formed elements. So 55% is plasma. Now this forms the matrix. So this is the fluid part we got, and we realize that this forms the matrix in which the formed elements were suspended. So what are the components of plasma? Plasma is made up of 92% of water. See again, plasma is the fluid component which has 92% of water. Rest 8% it has proteins and non-protein substances. So what are these proteins in the blood? You have any idea? You have heard of any proteins? The proteins are albumin, globulin and fibrinogen. What does each of these do? So albumin, the main function of albumin is to maintain the osmotic balance of blood. Next one is the globulin. You must have heard of immunoglobulins, right? So these are mostly involved in the immune mechanism of the body, the globulins, and the fibrinogen. It gets activated to form fibrin, which helps in blood clotting. So fibrinogen is involved in blood clotting. So yeah, next one. So when we centrifuge, we got it like this, right? Now when we kept it, by the time we looked up all this about plasma and came back, we find that there has a clot has been formed in the blood. You know that when the blood comes out of the body, it clots, right? That's why when you get a cut in your hand, after some time it stops bleeding. Similarly, the blood we kept in the test tube, we find that it has clotted. And when we see that in place of plasma, there is a similar looking fluid. Okay, what is it? Is it a plasma? Is there any difference between our plasma and the fluid that is left now? Yes, it's like there are no clotting factors in it. The clotting factors which was present in the plasma is now used up for formation of the clot. So the fluid that is left is plasma minus clotting factors, and this is called as serum. Okay, now we continue with our job of observing each cells. Now this time we take the platelets. Okay, since we don't have anything else to do, we are all in lockdown, so we take this platelet, we put it under a microscope, and we are going to observe it. We are going to count it. We'll take 1 microliter of blood and go on counting it. Just like we were counting holes in biscuits, now we'll count the number of cells. Okay, now platelets, we take it and we observe under a microscope, and we find that it is colorless, it is flat, granular, incomplete cells which has no nucleus. This is what we find morphologically. It's like bits and pieces. It's like fragmented cells. Okay, incomplete cells. So we want to know more about this, right? So yeah, I'm going to count this. I'm going to count 1 microliter, and we see that there is 1,50,000 to 3,50,000 platelets per microliter of blood. What are they doing? So much platelets in 1 microliter. What are these platelets doing in our body? So then when we think, we remember that we have heard about a disease. You must have heard about dengue, where people say that, okay, platelet count has gone so low. And what is the complication that happens in this disease? Do you know? It is there will be internal bleeding. There will be bleeding of the gums. So we came to know that this platelet has very important role in clotting of the blood. When the platelet count goes down, the clotting of the blood does not take place properly, and that's why the bleeding takes place. So the function of platelet is in clotting of blood. So again, how are these formed? These incomplete cells, why are they looking incomplete? So then when we observe more, when we read more, we come to know that these are formed from megakaryocytes. The megakaryocytes are formed in the red bone marrow, and these megakaryocytes break up or become fragments, and this forms the platelets. Now again, what we talked about the function, how long do they live? They live for 7 days. Okay, now okay, another thing, we talked about dengue, right? So what happens in dengue? The platelet count goes down. What is this condition called as? This is called as thrombocytopenia. In biology, you can guess the meaning of words by splitting it up and looking at the words itself. So here you can see that thrombocyte is nothing but platelets. And penia is the Greek for poverty or decrease. So thrombocytopenia is decrease in the count of platelets. Similarly, thrombocytosis. So the cytosis here stands for increase. So thrombocytosis means increase in number of platelets than the normal value for the particular person. Age, sex, etc. Okay, so this term, no, when you learn this term, this can be used in similar situations. For example, leukocytopenia means decrease in number of WBCs. Leukocytosis will be increase in number of WBCs. So we have observed the platelets. Now we are coming to the WBCs. Okay, now one strange thing happens. See, we take the blood and we are putting it under the microscope and observing. So we are expecting to see some white blood cells, right? We find that there are different types of white blood cells found. There are, exactly speaking, 5 types of WBCs found. And we also see that some of them have granules, some of them don't have granules. So what do we do next? For easiness of studying, we classify them into 2, those with granules and those without granules. Those with granules, we are going to call them as granulocytes, and those without granules, we will call them agranulocytes. Okay. Now we'll see each category separately. First, let's see these people with granules, the granulocytes. Okay, this is what we observe under the microscope. We find different types of WBCs in between the RBCs. So we are going to see each of them, some with granules, some without granules. So the granulocytes. The granulocytes are of 3 types: the neutrophil, the eosinophil, the basophil. Now, from where do they get these names? The neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, they get these names based on the dye they take. So if we want to observe under microscope, first we have to dye them or color them so that we can identify them. Okay, so the first one is a neutrophil. Okay, this guy here is a neutrophil. So it takes up the neutral dye and it becomes violet in color. It takes up the neutral dye, so it is known as neutrophil. It loves the neutral dye. So stain, it becomes violet with neutral dyes. So next thing we see the morphology. So when we look at it, we see the nucleus. So we find that it has a multi-lobe or 2 to 5 lobe nucleus. So it is also known as PMNLs, polymorphonuclear leukocytes. It has many nucleus. Now, we see that these neutrophils are present most in number in our WBCs. Most of them look like this, look like our neutrophils. So almost 60. So if I count 100 WBCs, 60 to 65 of them are neutrophils. So what is it? 60 to 65% of all WBCs are neutrophils. So next one is the function. What do they do? Why do we need these 5 types of neutrophils? So coming to the function, they phagocytose the foreign organisms entering the body. That is the function. Now, do they move or are they immobile? So they are mobile, they show amoeboid movement like amoeba. Okay, this is the function of neutrophil. They phagocytose the bacteria entering the body. Next one is the eosinophil. So as we talked before, eosinophil, it likes the eosin dye, and our eosin dyes are acidic dye and it is pink in color. So see, if you observe the eosinophil, it looks kind of pinkish in color. So when we observe the morphology, the nucleus is bilobe. So you just listen to these nuclear morphologies, because if you get a question, if you're giving some entrance exam, or if you get a question like you're given all the WBCs, or just say you are observing through a microscope, you see different WBCs, you want to identify them. So you listen to these colors and these nuclear morphologies. This will help you to identify them, because this is what makes them distinct. So here, when you come to the morphology of eosinophils, you see that it has a bilobe nucleus. 2 lobes which are connected to each other. You know some structure which has 2 lobes which are connected to each other? Okay, I'm talking about the headset. So it looks kind of like the headset. Okay, the nucleus of the eosinophil. So it has a bilobe nucleus. Don't say headset nucleus, just remember it as headset nucleus. So the percentage. So it is kind of very few eosinophils. The 2 to 3%, almost 2 to 3% are eosinophils. I can find hardly 2 to 3 cells when I take 100, when I count 100 WBCs under the microscope. What do they do? Eosinophils. So I'll give you a simple way to remember the function of eosinophils. Remember, worms, wheezes and weird diseases. The worms, the multicellular parasitic infestation. So to fight against these, the eosinophils come into action. Second one is wheezes. When do you get a wheeze? You get a wheeze when you have an allergy, right? So the second function is allergy. And third one, in few infections, few weird diseases. So when I say eosinophil, you should remember headset, 2 to 3%, and the third thing should be worms and wheezes, at least parasitic infections and allergies. Okay, now let's go to, okay, these are the worms, wheezes and weird diseases. Let's go to basophils. Basophil, the basic dye, it likes the basic dye. Example of basic dye is methylene blue, so it looks bluish. Okay, so see, this is our basophil, stains blue with basic dyes like methylene blue. Now morphology. It has an S-shaped nucleus. It is not clearly visible in this picture. Okay, we'll come to that. It has an S-shaped nucleus. Okay, so the first we saw the one with many lobes of nucleus, that is a neutrophil. Headset is eosinophil, and now S shape is basophil. Next one is percentage. So you can hardly find, when you take 100 cells, I took 100 cells and observed, I didn't find a basophil. I took another 100 cells and observed, I found one basophil. So you can hardly find a basophil. In fact, basophils are least in number when you compare to other WBCs. So 0.5 to 1% is the total percentage of basophils in our body. Next one is function. What do they do? So these basophils, they release the mediators of inflammation like histamine, serotonin, etc. So these are involved in the inflammatory reactions during immune response. So these are our granulocytes. Our grand team is over. Now let's come to our agranulocytes, those WBCs without granules. So these are of two types, monocytes and lymphocytes. So let's see each of them. Monocyte. In fact, monocytes are the biggest WBCs you can observe. So when you see the morphology, you see that it has a kidney-shaped nucleus. So the nuclear morphology of each WBC is distinct. In monocytes, you can see a kidney-shaped nucleus. See, this is the kidney shape. Okay, percentage is 6 to 8%. Function is phagocytosis. So it will phagocytose the foreign organism, similar to neutrophils. And it has amoeboid movement, similar to neutrophils. Okay, next one. Lymphocyte. Lymphocyte are of two types, the B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. Actually, they get their name. Actually, all the blood cells are formed in the red bone marrow. Now, these T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte get their name depending on the place where they mature. So, the B lymphocyte matures in the bone marrow and the T lymphocyte matures in the thymus. So, the percentage, so how many I can find? It is 20 to 25%. The nuclear morphology, when you come to that, the nucleus of the lymphocyte takes up most of the space of the cell. You can hardly find any cytoplasm. The nucleus occupies most of the space of the cell. Okay, so the nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio, if you take, it will be a very high number. So function. The function of B lymphocyte is the production of antibodies and T lymphocyte is in cell-mediated immunity. So now we saw all the WBCs, right? See, now we come back to the picture we started with, what we saw under the microscope. Now I identified. Now you try to identify these from what you studied. So this guy looks kind of blue. Okay, this is supposed to have an S-shaped nucleus. This is a basophil. Now next, coming to B. The nucleus is occupying most of the space of the cell. So who is this? Lymphocyte. So this one is a lymphocyte. This one is a basophil. So next one is, okay, this one. It has what shaped nucleus? Kidney shaped nucleus. And kidney shaped nucleus is found in monocyte. And in fact, this is the biggest cell if you see, compare it with the rest of them. And next one we come here. It looks kind of pinkish. Yes. What is this nucleus shape? It has headset shaped nucleus. So this is a eosinophil. Next one, the one with the polymorphonuclear leukocyte, the one with many nucleuses, who is it? Our neutrophil. Yes. So yes, we are seeing this to a background of RBCs. These are our RBCs, okay? So if you see this picture, you observe that there are many RBCs and there are few WBCs compared to the RBCs. So the normal value, the normal number of WBCs in our body is 4,000 to 11,000 cells per millimeter cube. And that of the RBCs is 5 to 5.5 million cells per millimeter cube. So if you do the math, if you take the ratio, you find that there is one WBC for almost about 600 RBCs. So you remember this value, that is in NCERT it is given that 6,000 to 8,000 WBCs per millimeter cube is the average value. Okay, that is the value given in NCERT and you have to remember that value, 6,000 to 8,000 WBCs per millimeter cube is a normal value. Now this is a blood report of a person. So you have learned so much, right? You have learned about the percentage, you have learned about the function of the different blood WBCs. So why did you learn all these? What's the use? These are mere numbers, right? Okay, you imagine you see a lab report and you see so many percentages there. So once you know the normal value, you can know if the person has a less number of them or a more number of them. And in that way, and you even know the function of them. So you can diagnose many conditions, even though you may be not able to diagnose the exact condition. For example, you see a report of your uncle with lot of eosinophils, a high eosinophilia. Okay, what will you tell him? Uncle, you either have allergy or you have parasitic infection. Okay, like that you can do. Okay, we come to the major one, which is like takes up most part of our blood, which gives the red color of the blood. The cell that comes to our mind first when we think about the blood, that is the red blood cells. Okay, so morphology. So again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking some blood and putting it under the microscope. Say 1 microliter of blood I'm taking, and we are observing. So when I go to the morphology, I see that it is biconcave disc, something like this, and it is disc, biconcave disc shaped cells. Okay, like it will be thick at the boundary and it will be thin in the center. And next one, it is non-nucleated. It does not have a nucleus. One more cell we saw that is non-nucleated, thrombocytes or platelets. Total count. Okay, so I was counting the cells, right? Just with my experience with the other cells, I started counting the RBCs also. I counted and counted and counted and counted and counted. At last, I came to know it is 5.5 to 5.5 million cells per millimeter cube of blood. Now formation. Where is this formed? So as I told, all these blood cells are formed from the red bone marrow in adults. So what does these do? What is the function of this RBCs? Why do we have so many RBCs? So these RBCs are the cells that transport the gases, respiratory gases, the oxygen to the cells and the carbon dioxide from the cells. Okay, this is the function of RBCs. Next one is the lifespan. It lives for 120 days. Again, how does this RBC get this red color? So in the RBC, there is a complex protein which contains iron, and this is called as hemoglobin. And it is this hemoglobin that gives RBC its red color. The normal value of hemoglobin in the body is 12 to 16 grams per deciliter. Now, I told you it dies in 120 days, right? Where does it go and die? It dies in the graveyard of RBC, which is the spleen. Okay, see, 4 months old, that is 120 days is the lifespan of RBC. We have talked about it. And the spleen is the graveyard of RBC. So this is just a table which summarizes pretty much about each cell what we have learned. You can go through this. You can pause the video and go through the table for a quick revision. So this is, now we saw each elements. Now let's try to classify this one. So we took our blood, centrifuged it. We came to know that it has plasma, which was 55%, and the formed elements, which was 45%. Now what did the formed elements have? It had the blood platelets, it had the WBCs, it had the RBCs. Now when we go to WBCs, what are the two types of WBCs we saw? We saw the granulocytes, we saw the agranulocytes. When we go to the granulocytes, which all had granules? Neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil. Which did not have granule? The monocyte and the lymphocyte. Now we missed out someone, that is the lymph, which is a very important component. So when I talk about the lymph, see the blood. Imagine this is your blood vessel and the blood is flowing through this. Okay, it will be flowing at a certain pressure, right? So the blood vessel it is covered by epithelial cells. So there will be gap in between the cells in which our blood can escape out, right? So the plasma along with certain smaller elements and smaller proteins will escape out through the gaps in these cells. And surrounding the blood vessel, what are present? The different organs and tissues are present, right? So this will go and bathe the cells of these tissues. So this fluid is what we discussed in the beginning. This is the interstitial fluid. So this interstitial fluid, it is through this interstitial fluid that exchange of substances. So this is like blood vessel, interstitial fluid, organ. Okay, so it is through this fluid that the exchange of all the substances takes place between the blood and the cells. Okay, so once the exchange has taken place, where should this fluid go? It can't remain all the time in the interstitial spaces, right? The new fluid should come, this fluid should go back. So how does this go back? A few of them returns back to the blood vessels. The remaining are collected by dead-ended capillaries called as lymphatic capillaries, and they join the lymphatic vessels. Okay, it is these lymphatic vessels that drain them into the main veins, the larger veins. Okay, so now this so it returns to the blood circulatory system. So when I say that this comes from the blood, you know that it has the same mineral distribution as the plasma. So a few points about the lymph. It is a colorless fluid. Yes. So what does it have? It has specialized lymphocyte. So we talked about the functions of the lymphocyte. So what will be the function of the lymph which has the lymphocyte? It will be immune mechanism. It is involved in the immune responses. Now, important carrier of nutrients. Yeah. So we told that all the communications takes place through this fluid. So it is an important transporter of nutrients, hormones, etc. Now this is an important point which you must have observed in your digestion chapter. The fats are absorbed through lymph in the lacteals in the intestinal villi. So we are done here with the first topic, the theory part. Now we'll see some questions so that let's see how much we understood our topic. Which of the following is incorrect about lymph? We just saw about lymph, so let's see. Lymph is a colorful. Is it colorful? No, we just saw it's colorless, right? It has hemoglobin but no RBC. This is also false. This is a false statement. So what was the question? Incorrect. So I think this must be our answer. Let's just check out. It contains specialized lymphocytes which are responsible for immunity. Correct? Yes. Lymph is an important carrier for nutrients and hormones. Yes? Correct. Fats are absorbed through lymph in the lacteals present in the intestinal villi. Yes, it's a correct statement. So the option is option A. True or false? You are going to tell me this. We already discussed this. Increase in the number of blood platelets than normal is known as thrombocytopenia, whereas decrease in number is known as thrombocytosis. Is it correct? It's a false statement. We have made it very clear that thrombocytopenia, the penia is the word for poverty. So thrombocytopenia is decrease and thrombocytosis is increase. Which is true regarding leukocytes. They undergo diapedesis to squeeze through capillary walls. This is a true statement. Now, diapedesis is the amoeboid movement shown by WBCs by which they move through the walls of the blood vessels and they squeeze out through the capillary walls. So this is correct. Remember the word diapedesis. Sudden fall in number indicates cancer. No, this is false. Produced in thymus. No, we have discussed where is all the blood cells produced. It's produced in the red bone marrow. So this is also wrong. Enucleated. Are they enucleated? I spent a whole video discussing about nucleus of WBCs and now they say it is enucleated. No, it's false. Okay, so we got our answer. Our answer is option A. A drop of each of the following is placed separately on 4 slides. Which of them will not coagulate? We have a direct answer for this. If not coagulate means it should not have what? Clotting factors. Which one does not have clotting factors in these? It is blood serum. Is it plasma? No, because plasma without clotting factors, serum. So option A is our answer. Find the correct descending order of percentage proportion of leukocytes in human blood. Okay, for this we have already discussed the percentage, so we know the answer. So first we'll write down our answer, then we'll see the options. So it is descending order, so from highest to lowest. So first we know that neutrophils is 60 to 65%. Next, which one comes? Lymphocytes, 20 to 25% is lymphocytes. Next one comes are monocytes, 6 to 8%. Then comes what? Eosinophils. How much is eosinophils? 2 to 3% is eosinophils. Next, the least, which we can hardly find, basophils. 0.5 to 1% is basophils. So let's see any option matches us. Yes, option A. So you should be careful about the question also, because descending means you should write from highest to lowest itself. They'll surely give an option which is opposite. See, let's find, yeah, basophil, eosinophil, monocyte, lymphocyte, neutrophils. Okay. Consider the following 4 statements and select the correct option stating which ones are true and which ones are false. Yeah. 90 to 90% of plasma is water? Yes. Albumin primarily are involved in defense mechanism. Is albumin involved in defense mechanism? No, that's a false statement. What is albumin involved in then? It's involved in maintaining the osmotic pressure of the blood. Okay, then which cell is involved in defense mechanism? The globulins. Plasma without clotting factors is called serum. True. Factors for coagulation or clotting of blood are present in the plasma in an active form. So what will happen if they were present in active form in our blood? All the blood in our body will be clotted, right? There won't be any blood flowing through our body and will be dead. Okay, that's a side effect. So, yeah, this is false. In the blood, all the clotting factors are present in an inactive state, which is activated when we need a situation where the blood should clot, for say a cut in the body. So, we'll discuss this in detail in our next video on clotting. So, let's see. True, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. We got option C as our answer. Next one. A blood corpuscle has a size ranging from 10 to 18 micrometer in diameter. Has a kidney-shaped nucleus. Something strikes? Which one has a kidney-shaped nucleus? Yes, monocyte. Found to be highly motile. Monocyte is motile? Yes, it has amoeboid movement. And phagocytic, yes. So we have our answer. It's monocyte. Kidney-shaped, monocyte. The large nucleus, lymphocyte. Headset-shaped nucleus, eosinophil. S-shaped nucleus, basophil. Nucleus with many lobes, neutrophil. Just remember this. Which of these statements is false? WBC accumulate in the site of wound by diapedesis. It's true. Rolex formation is piling of RBCs. Yes, Rolex formation means piling of RBCs. Basophils are significant in allergic reactions. That is also true. See, I told you they release the mediators of inflammation, right? So in allergy, there is inflammation of the body, and this is by basophils. So basophils are significant in allergic reaction. RBC count falls in high altitude. Is it true or is it false? So from this much, we know that, okay, we have only one option left. Let's see. RBC count falls in high altitude. Will it fall in high altitude? What is the situation in high altitude? When you go on a bus to a high altitude, you find it difficult to breathe. Why? Because the oxygen in high altitude is less. The oxygen concentration in the atmosphere is less. So what our body does to adjust to this is it produces more RBCs. So that whatever oxygen is available, these RBCs can take them and take it to different parts of the body. So the RBC count increases in high altitudes. So which is false? Option D is false. Select the correct option. Okay. Let's see. It has many lobes in its nucleus. So it must be a PMNL, neutrophil. 0.3 to 0.5%. No. In fact, neutrophils are present in the highest number. So this is a false. It is 60 to 65%. Next one, see, it has S-shaped nucleus. Who is this? Basophil. 0.5 to 1%. Yes, basophils are 0.5 to 1%. What is the function? Probably secrete histamine and serotonin. Yes, B is the correct option. Let's see C. Headphone shaped nucleus. Okay, I spoiled the headphone. But head-shaped nucleus. That is eosinophil. 30 to 40%? No. It's around 3 to 4%, right? That's why they give this kind of confusing options. Defense against microbes. Okay, I'll go more with if they gave allergy and parasitic infections. This is a false statement from the percentage itself. Now third one, before seeing the cell, you see the percentage. You can save some time like this. They give 100 to 40%. Can some cell be that high? Higher than the neutrophil? No. 100% no. So this one looks kind of like our monocyte, and monocyte are not involved in allergic reactions also. So this is a false statement. So we got our option. Our option is option B. Assertion and reason. So you must be familiar with this type of questions, right? I've heard that like from this year they've included it in CBSE like board papers also. So we'll just do, these are typical AIMS questions actually, assertion and reason. We'll just do few of them just to get familiarized with the pattern. So you know the options in assertion and reason, it will keep varying. Here it's like option A is like both assertion and reason are true and the reason is the correct explanation for assertion. So they'll give us two sentences, statement 1 which is called as the assertion, statement 2 which is called as the reason, and we should see if both are correct and if the reason given is the correct explanation for the assertion. Let's see. Assertion 1. Lymph is a colorless fluid containing specialized lymphocytes which are responsible for the immune response of the body. It's true. Exchange of nutrients, gases, etc. between blood and the cells always occurs through this fluid. That is also true. So individually both A and B are true. But is B the correct explanation of A? How can we know this? We'll do one trick. We'll just add a because in between and we'll read it together. And we'll see if it makes any sense. Lymph is a colorless fluid containing specialized lymphocytes which are responsible for the immune responses of the body because exchange of nutrients, gases, etc. between blood and the cells always occur through this fluid. Does it make any sense? I don't think so because it does not. It contains specialized lymphocytes responsible for immune response. It's not because it does the exchange of nutrients, gases, etc. Right? So we'll go with option B, which is both assertion and reason are true, but reason is not correct explanation for assertion. So let's see the next question. Diapedesis is the process exhibited by WBCs. Correct. WBCs can change their shape and are capable of amoeboid movement. This enables them to squeeze out of blood capillaries into tissues. Both are correct, and yes, reason is the correct explanation of assertion. This is the correct explanation for diapedesis. So we'll go with A. Okay, both assertion and reason are true, and reason is the correct explanation for assertion. Next one, assertion. Lymphocytes do not have granules in their cytoplasm. Yeah, there are granulocytes. So they are called granulocytes. Because, let's see, lymphocytes are non-phagocytic and are involved in production of antibodies. See, the two sentences are individually correct. But the second sentence, that is lymphocytes are non-phagocytic and are involved in production of antibodies, is not the reason why they don't have granules, right? So both are individually correct, but reason is not the correct explanation for assertion. So here we will go with B. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and we'll be coming with our next video, which will be on blood clotting and blood grouping. Thank you.